right. Hey, veterinary friends, it's Dr. Julie Capel, and welcome to the podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Cindy Barnes, and she is a practicing emergency veterinarian, and she is also the founder of Shepard Veterinary Software, and she has a very interesting journey, and so we're going to learn about her together and hopefully get some insight about her life as a veterinarian, and she can help us get some better tools to manage our teams and our practices. And she's been through a lot. So I'm really excited to have her on the podcast. Welcome, Cindy.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Nice to have you. So can you start with kind of your story? Like, where did it all start? As a veterinarian, how did you get into this profession, and tell me about all that?
Well, I mean, probably similar to most people, just started as a vet assistant, kennel attendant, cleaning kennels. I a little bit non-traditional. I mean, I was already a mom of 5 kids and was looking for a little bit of extra income for myself. So I went to what was, I don't know, natural or comfortable for me, was working with animals. You know, I grew up riding horses, and we always had a lot of animals in my house growing up, dogs and cats and horses and you name it. So I gravitated towards veterinary medicine. And so I got a job just 1 day a week cleaning kennels. And then that kind of became 2 and 3 and 4 days a week. And then progressed into doing more technician type duties. Then I ended up going to vet tech school and becoming credentialed veterinary technician. And then yeah, from there, I just decided that, you know, if I'm going to be a technician, and I was volunteering my time with rural area veterinary services and going to reservations and doing a lot of work with veterinary students, teaching them anesthesia and surgical skills as a technician. And I just thought, you know, maybe I should consider becoming a veterinarian as well. So kind of looked into what that journey looked like. It was a bit daunting.
Yeah, if you had 5 children.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
pretty
mean,
non-traditional way to do it.
definitely non-traditional. And you know, at that point, it had been many years since I had been a vet tech or gone to vet tech school, and a lot of the classes, you know, didn't qualify anymore. So I had to retake a lot of the classes. And so it's, you know, it was a big task. And I took one class to see if I was even, you know, up for the project. And so I took like one biology class, I want to say, and I think I got a B in the class. And I was like, well, I guess if I could pass this class, maybe I could do this. And so I went full bore ahead, and I thought, well, I'm just going to get through school as quickly as possible because I'm older and I can't just, you know, dink around. I need to get through it as quickly as possible. Yeah, exactly. So I planned out every single class as meticulously as I could, and took like the minimum I needed to get through in community college to get into the university. And I knew exactly which, you know, courses I needed to take. And I took like 21 units a semester. Like I didn't mess around.
Yeah. And had 5 kids at home.
And I worked as a vet tech at an emergency and critical care facility at night.
So you were kind of crazy, right?
I still am.
How old were your kids when you were going through vet school or college, or when you started college, I guess?
So my youngest was 3. Yeah, I waited for him to be old enough so I could put him in the preschool at the community college. So I drop him off and then I'd go to
Cool.
class,
Nice.
and I took all my classes while he was in preschool, and then I'd pick him up and then, run around and get the rest of my kids. And do the mom thing in the afternoon and the evenings, and then the kids would go to bed, and I'd study, like from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. was kind of my study time,
Yeah.
or it would be or I'd work. I usually did not graves. I would do like swing shifts. So, I'd only work like maybe 3 days a week as a technician doing swing shifts, and then the rest of the time I'd be, mom or working or studying. So it was insane, but I got through it and
Yeah, it
transferred.
sounds very insane.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, got through community college, got into university, and then and I got through all of those. I didn't graduate community college before I got into the university, and I didn't graduate the university before I got into vet school. And that's something that most people are like, that's not possible. And I'm like, well,
Yeah,
yeah, it is actually. You don't actually need to have degrees to get from one to the other to the other. You just
right.
need to have the prerequisites to transfer. So I got into Colorado State University as a out-of-state student, which is a tough, you know, position to get into because there's so many people applying for that.
Hmm.
Um, but out of state, non-traditional student, but I had very, very high GPA and good scores, and that helped, get me into that position. So I graduated in 2012, like not that long ago, 10 years
Okay.
ago.
So you're fairly new to the profession.
I'm new as a veterinarian. Yeah,
Right.
I've been
Yeah,
in
you
the
were a tech for a
profession
long
since
time.
since the 90s. Yeah,
Yeah, and a kennel kid and all that. Yeah, I call them
all
kennel
of it.
kids. They're animal assistants, but they were always kennel kids to me.
I always say, when I was a kid, or when I grew up, or I grew up in the industry. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So was the drive just the animals that because you were an animal lover and you loved horses, or did you enjoy the science of it, or what was the draw, do you think, to vet med?
Well, it was something that I was definitely passionate about for sure. But it was a strategic decision to build a career, that you know it was a financial decision for sure. I mean, my husband is a car salesman, and he's commission only, and we had 5 kids, and it wasn't like he could do something different since he was the primary breadwinner.
Yeah.
And pretty much our financial situation was not going to change unless I changed it. And I needed to pick something that I was passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that, I chose veterinary medicine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a financial decision. And then most people would be like, so you chose to go into that much debt, and that was a financial decision? And I say, absolutely, it was the best decision of my life.
Yeah. I think sometimes when I talk to younger veterinarians, I hate to sound like an old fogey, but I think sometimes they worry so much about that debt and they don't see the other
Yeah,
side of it. It's like it takes money to make money sometimes, and it's really
100%.
difficult to not do that. You know what I mean?
Especially in today's environment where veterinarians are just so valuable, and the opportunity to make a really good income is out there.
Yes.
That just is, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Take on
Especially
that
if you
debt.
love it. Like you have to love it in a way, but I really think that discouraging yourself from going into this profession because of the money problem, I think is the wrong thought. Because if you love it enough, and with the opportunities that we have now, I think you can make the money that you want to make.
Well, and I've just come to absolutely love my career. I mean, I'm just in a position where I just love my career. I mean, I just got back from 4 overnight shifts in ER, and I always end my 4 overnight shifts. I do 4 overnights every other week in California. I live in just outside of Seattle, but I work in California, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. I love taking care of the animals. I love the tough medicine cases, that I get to work really hard on, and I get to see these animals turn around and go home healthy, and the surgical cases that I get to cut and see them go home healthy, and the clients are really thrilled, and even the cases that I can't fix, but we come to a resolution, and we allow that animal to stop suffering. And I just absolutely love what I do, and I really encourage people to just continue pushing on in this industry, and find their joy,
Yeah.
because it's a phenomenal profession.
Yeah. It's a choice too, to find the path in veterinary medicine that you love. So did you
Yeah.
go right into ER out of school, or what did you do right after you graduated? You said you graduated in 2012, and then did you go
No,
right?
no, I'm like so many other veterinarians, that aren't entirely sure what they're going to do right out of vet school. I thought I knew what I was going to do. I mean, I was pretty dead set. I knew what I was going to do out of vet school. I spent the last 2 years of my training in vet school focusing on bovine embryo transfer.
Mm, interesting.
Yeah, I did all my externships on bovine embryo transfer. I, spent time on cattle ranches. I spent a lot of time with a theriogenologist. That's all he did was ET, and that was my focus. I was going to build an embryo transfer practice.
Hmm.
So I moved to Montana. I had family there, and as a family, we spent many summers in Montana, and that's where we thought we wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so I moved to Montana, and I took out a business loan on top of my student loans. Talk about not worrying about the debt. And I built a large animal practice. And it couldn't be embryo transfer exclusive because there wasn't enough work. So, I did large animal ambulatory 24/7, which was rough because I
Yeah.
was the only doctor and
So
I didn't have a technician, and you're on 24/7. But it was very successful right out of the gate, albeit very busy, and I was the only one working. Um, so that's what I did right out of vet school, is large animal ambulatory work
you
with,
started your own place. So you were the owner.
yeah.
So what was that
Mhm.
experience like, being the owner of a practice? Let's talk about that a little bit. Because I was
You know,
an owner of my practice for years. So
yeah,
different.
I I think that there's a lot that I didn't know, and that I made a lot of mistakes buying inventory. I thought I needed to buy everything under the sun. The last thing I wanted to do was to be caught without the equipment or the medication that I needed. So, and the pharmaceutical and distribution reps were not friendly in helping me decide what I needed. They
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 just
were
want to make
perfect.
some money, right?
Oh, they just put me right into the hole, no problem.
Oh,
So
that's
I would
funny.
say anyone starting their own practice, find a mentor that's really going to help you determine what the bare minimum is that you need. Because I definitely went into a lot of debt in drugs and you know vaccines, and you name it. Um, I was able to recoup a lot of that at some point by selling a lot of those things when I ended up going into small animal emergency later on. But So yeah, I made a lot of mistakes, and trying to do it alone and not having even an assistant, that was hard. And but I think it's absolutely doable. It's a little hard on the marriage when you're still parenting your kids, and you're on call 24/7, so you really don't feel like you can ever sleep. Your phone's always on, so
Yeah.
it's stressful. It's stressful. Probably I'm uber independent, and I needed to learn how to probably reach out for help and ask for more mentorship. I think I would encourage new grads to really find someone that has been there, done that, and ask for help
Yeah.
in learning what the best way to do it on your own, and you know ask for help.
Yeah. Is that your most important piece of advice from that time in your life of being a hospital owner, as being too independent and too, I always
Early
say that
on,
a lot of us are kind of control freaks, us veterinarians. And so I think sometimes that is a mistake that we make, is thinking that we have to know it all and do it all and not ask for help.
yeah, yeah, it definitely felt like, you know there was a lot of discouragement to start your own practice right out of vet school. Oh, you can't do that. You don't know what you're
Right.
doing. And so I didn't I didn't feel like I had the support around me. But I think that is changing a lot. There's a lot of support out in our industry today compared to 10 years ago. So, had I started a practice today compared to 10 years ago, I think there would be tons of mentorship available for me.
Right.
And I would have felt much more comfortable asking for help and finding it. But back then it was more like, going uphill with a chain attached to my ankle and going, you can't tell me no.
Yeah. And a
I'm going to
husband
do
and 5
this.
kids.
Right, right. I got through vet school with all of that attached, and now I'm going to go run a successful practice. And it was a successful practice. But the problem was is that my husband didn't want to live in Montana at some point. He was like, I don't think this is where I want to spend the rest of my life. I don't like this weather. I don't like it being dark and dismal all the time. And can we rethink this? And so that's kind of what ended up ultimately leading us, to Arizona, which is where we ended up buying an small animal emergency practice.
So you sold the large animal practice in Montana, moved to Arizona, and then went into emergency just like that? Like, how did you decide that emergency is where you wanted to go?
It wasn't just like that. It was no, it was kind of, and I didn't sell the large animal practice. I kind of this weird transition. The local large animal practice in town had called me at the same time and basically was like, hey, you're obviously taking a lot of our business. Do you want to join resources?
Oh, interesting.
He kind of, wanted me to come and join his team, and kind of buy out my business. And it was at the same time that my husband wanted to get out of Dodge. So I basically just said, you're in luck. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So,
So they kind of
sometimes
absorbed it.
you have to make tough choices in life, and that was a tough choice for me, but I made the decision to choose my marriage over my business. And so we left, and we floundered around for a while. And I took a job as an industry vet for a pharmaceutical type company that produced um, polyclonal and monoclonal antibodies on a big ranch in California. But that was unbelievable. I was the only vet on like this 15,000 acre ranch, and I had 15,000 sheep and 3,000 New Zealand white rabbits and like, I don't know, 20,000
Oh
mice
my
and oh, and
gosh.
they had,
Talk about stress. That sounds awful to me. I would be
it
so
was pretty
freaked out.
bad. It was pretty bad. And the USDA hated them. And, eventually USDA shut them down. And I didn't know any of this going into it. So I was working 6 days a week, 14-hour shifts. It was insane. So then after that, I kind of ended up doing a bunch of relief work and just kind of navigated back to ER because that's where I knew I was most comfortable in ER. And I was like, I'm just going to go back to my roots, And so I started doing a lot of relief ER, and we ended up moving to Arizona because that's where my husband's family was from. And I ended up doing relief ER at a practice that, the owner was like, hey, would you be interested in buying it? And I was like, well, hell yeah.
Sign me up.
And yeah, so that's how I
Wow.
ended up buying that ER.
That's really cool.
And
So what year was that?
I bought that in 2015.
Now, are you still there, or is that because you said you're still doing ER? Is it at that practice?
No,
Okay.
gosh, I mean, my life is just like this.
Yeah, it sounds
I,
like you change directions really easily. I need to take a lesson from you. Sometimes I'm like stuck in my ways. So I like that you can pivot and just go in another direction. What?
so I bought the ER. It was a nights and weekends practice. And that was going to be my legacy, right? That's, I was happy, was doing that. I turned it into a 24/7 practice within 3 months, hired 4 vets, hired a huge team. Things were going well. And it was a very successful practice. I was really happy with it. And but the software issue was a problem for me.
Mm,
Um, and I had switched up the software a couple times trying to find something that would work. Software was our biggest roadblock in the flow of the practice. It was costing us thousands, hundreds of thousands, actually. We audited our records and our books often, and we realized we were literally missing $300,000 a year in missed charges because it was a very profitable practice. We were
yeah.
making millions a year, and
Yeah.
10% of it was being missed
Mm,
in just nursing fees and injection fees. And human nature is to miss those little things,
sure.
even though it's
Absolutely.
supposed to be
That's
charged for.
that's one of the hardest things that a practice has to deal with is those missed charges.
So, I tried to put checks and balances in place, but those checks and balances ended up costing me in overtime because, the staff were like, can't let Dr. Barnes down, we gotta do these checks and balances. So they would stay late trying to make sure those charges were all in. Well, okay, I'm stepping over 20s to pick up ones, like, or
Right.
six
Yeah.
and one and half dozen another. So it just was like, okay, there a software program out there that automatically captures charges, and there really wasn't anything out there that did the way my brain
Thought it should be done.
thought it should be done. And
Yeah.
there were so many duplicate and triplicate steps to every software program. So that's when my crazy brain thought, well, okay, so if no one's going to create a software program to do what it needs to be done, I guess that's going to be me too.
And you knew nothing about computers or programming or any of that. So
No.
that's where the Shepard software thing came in.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about that journey. Because that's a really
Yeah.
interesting zigzag, that's kind of like I'm in veterinary medicine, now I'm a techie.
Well, I knew nothing. And, it's a good thing because had I known what I was getting into, I would have never gotten into it. I
Yeah.
honestly, because I thought to myself, I've got 100,000 extra cash. I'll put that into building a software program. And maybe it'll work for my hospital. Maybe I can build it and it can work for other hospitals. I don't know. So I went about trying to find a company to build it for me, found a company. They're like, sure, okay, 100,000. Yeah, we'll build a program for you. So
Can kind of
um
see where that's going.
yeah. So they built what's called in the software development world a minimum viable product. It's an
Mhm.
MVP.
Okay.
And that's exactly what it was, an MVP, a minimum viable product. Um, so, but that MVP probably cost me about 250,000. So I'm thinking, okay,
And that's not the end. That's not the end step.
oh God,
Just the baby
no,
step, right?
no. So I'm like, okay, so I'm writing checks, but the practice is profitable, so it's funding all of
You
this.
can do it, right?
Yeah, and in the meantime, I've sucked my one of my sons into this and made him my co-founder in this project, and he's finishing up design school in California, so he's a graphic designer and he's the one designing what it looks like, and he's kind of the go-between. Like I'm telling him I needed to do this, I wanted to function like this, and he figures out what it should look like and then tells the developers and then they make it happen. So he's kind of what we call the project manager or project owner, and which is great, that we can work on this project together. And so, several months go by, I end up putting the MVP in my own practice. I pull my own software, or I pull the old software out. I put the MVP Shepard into my practice, and I'm like, okay, guys, you need to use this software and you need to tell me, where I need to fix it, because I want to build an intuitive software that anyone can use without any training. Well, I can't stand the fact that I had to spend myself $10,000 to have someone come into my practice and train me on how to use this software, and I still don't know how to use it.
Right. Yeah.
And it's still not intuitive. That is insanity. And that's what every legacy software out there today is like. It's
Hmm.
crazy. And
Yeah.
even the cloud-based practice management softwares out there today are still charging you an ungodly amount of money to train you on how to use their software. It's like,
Right.
are you kidding me? This is 2022. Build a software program that is intuitive, that someone plugs into their program, turns it on, and goes, oh, okay, click here, oh, that makes sense. Click here, oh, okay,
And they can learn it on
right?
their own.
That is what intuitive software should be like.
Hmm.
So we built intuitive software because we've got my son who is a millennial, designing it, going, okay, this makes sense. We've got, young hip developers, developing it. And we've got my hospital team telling us exactly where the pitfalls are, what works, what doesn't work, and kind of, we're building it from the inside of a practice out. And so that's kind of how Shepherd evolved. And eventually I'm like several $100,000 into this program. And I kind of got to the point where I was like, I don't know what to do at this point. I'm either going to have to pull the plug, or I'm going to have to like come up with a lot of money to keep funding this project, because it's nowhere near done. I'm building a product that is going to go up against all these other legacy programs that have been out for 20, 30 years that have 800 features,
Right.
and so I made the tough decision. And the interesting thing is, I realized in the startup world is you either have an idea and you go out and you get investor dollars in the beginning with an idea, or you go out and you get investor dollars once you've built the product and now you're just going to grow. But you can't get investor dollars if you're halfway there and you need more money
Right.
to complete
To
the
develop
product.
it. Yeah.
That's a no-no in the
Yeah.
startup world.
And that's something you didn't know going in.
Oh no, I've learned so much, which is valuable, right?
That's life, right?
I wouldn't trade it for the world. So I, the only money I had was my practice. So I had to sell my practice.
In order to develop the software. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yep. And so that's what I did.
Yeah.
Um, I sold my practice. I stayed on for about a year as the medical director. So I kind of had my feet in both arenas, which was hard. But I've juggled many things
Done
in my
harder.
life.
Yeah.
And then, eventually I went full speed, into software development and building a software company and yeah. So a lot of the team that was with me at the ER still works for the software company.
Oh, okay. So you took some of those people with you.
Well, not on purpose.
Yeah.
The company that bought my ER didn't manage it well, and eventually it closed,
Oh, that's
which
disappointing.
is really very disappointing.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening was a good chunk of the team went just outside the non-compete and opened another ER.
Ah, okay.
And then so
So
they've
they
got a
were fine.
thriving yeah, they've got a thriving ER in that
Yeah.
community, which is good because it's the only ER within 2 hours of, Phoenix. So
Right.
it's a needed resource in that community. But the rest of the team came over to Shepard. So, the people that we have working for Shepard have been with the software since the day one.
Yeah. So when Shepard first was developed and it turned into a company, how long ago was that? Was it recent?
So we started, the concept of Shepard was like late 2016,
Okay.
when we started, when I went to that initial development company and said, hey, I want to build software, can I do this? And had
Yeah.
I known, like I said, oh, it takes millions and millions of dollars to build software. You sure you want to do this? I would have said, what?
You would have said maybe not.
Probably I'll let someone else do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I had 100,000. I thought, sure,
You
why
thought that
not?
was a lot of money.
I did. I totally did. So, I mean, again, I would not trade it for the world. The experiences I've had in my entire life and career are just, they're all meant to be. And I love sharing it with everyone. And people come to me all the time with ideas, and I can share my experiences and the good, the bad, and the ugly, and help steer them in the direction they need to go to be successful. And
Yeah.
I'm just thankful that I've been through what I've been through, and I've been successful despite it all.
Right, right. Besides the ups and downs, right? You've still come out on top. Yeah.
I'm pretty tenacious. I don't take no
Yeah.
for an answer.
Yeah, it sounds like you are. So tell me a little bit about that mindset, because on my podcast we talk a lot about how to control your mind so you can do better and feel better and be successful and get over that imposter syndrome and all that. Tell me about the way you're wired and how you were able to do all these things and just feel okay with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, again, nature, maybe. I don't know. I think it's the way you're built, but I also think a lot of it has to do with a decision. It's a decision to wake up every day and say, today's a new day, new opportunity. And even it doesn't even have to be a new day. It's a new minute, new hour, new case, new opportunity to make a difference in this pet's life. That case may not have gone the way you wanted it to go, but you've got a new case right in front of you, and you've got a new opportunity to make a difference in that pet's life.
Yeah.
And so you have to make a conscious decision to just keep moving forward. because every minute, every hour, every day is a new opportunity to do something better, new, different, learn, assess, and move forward.
Yeah.
Because the only thing you can control is right in front of you. What is in front of you right now? You cannot control what happened 5 minutes ago or what's going to happen, 5 minutes ahead of you. Can only control what's in front of you at that moment. And and I just, again, I don't really take no for an answer.
But
And
that's a really good point to try to stay focused on what you're doing rather than what you've done or what you're going to do, because that's where all the anxiety and the worry comes in. If you're in the moment and you're present and you're focused, you're not going to have time to stress or worry.
yeah, if I had thought about, gosh, I've got 8 years ahead of me before I even become a veterinarian, and that's like a monumental task with 5 kids and a husband and all that debt I'm going to incur, and oh my god, oh my god, oh my god,
You would have never
I
done it.
never,
No.
never, and how am I going to get into vet school? No one gets into vet school. It's too hard to get into vet school, and I'm an out-of-state student, and I had all these kids. My choices were pretty slim. I had to be, I couldn't just apply to every school. Like I
Right.
had to pick areas where, number one, I wanted to raise my kids. Number two, where my husband can get a job, and continue to support us. And so, I was very strategic about what schools I chose and to apply to. And so, I just, you had to know that this is where you were going to go and this is where you were going to get in. And but I was also very, very strategic, and I didn't just willy-nilly it. Like I knew exactly what the statistics were, and I knew what scores I had to get, and I knew what grades I had to get, and but I just always focused on what was right in front of me, like what
Mhm.
class, what homework assignment, what test. I didn't look
What kid? What
right.
kid just fell down and scraped his knee, and now I
Exactly,
gotta focus on that, then I can go back to the studying. Yeah. And that's
exactly,
excellent
exactly.
advice, because that's
Yeah.
something that's so difficult to do. Even getting myself to focus on what's right in front of me is often difficult, so that's
If you
great
could see
advice
what was literally right in front of me behind my computer, it's like a stack of mail that's this high.
that you could be
That's
stressing about, right?
it contains so much mail that I haven't gone through. Like all of my stuff is automated, like all my bills and everything. So I don't really think about bills.
Right.
Um, I'm sure a lot of it is stuff I can throw away, but it's probably tax return stuff, and I need to
Might
go
need
through
it.
and yeah, I have to go through and do all my tax stuff and get it off to my CPA, and then my I'm a little bit of an enabler with my kids. So my two adult kids are like, "Did you get all my tax stuff off to the CPA yet?"
So
So
that's a
yeah,
typical mom too. You're still involved with your kids and still trying to help them get going. And
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it is. So I'm like, that's right in front of me as we speak. So, but I'm blocking that out.
Yeah, well, and that's another good point, right? Is you can't always get it all done. And I think that's what we tend to forget, like some of my records didn't get written up from yesterday and they'll still be there tomorrow when I go back to work, and that's okay. They're right there. All the notes are written down. All I got to do is plug them into the computer or whatever. And just realizing that that's okay, and not beating yourself up over that.
Records are those are one of the things that I that's one of the things that were forefront in writing, in creating Shepherd.
Yeah,
I,
yeah. Tell me about that.
well, in ER, you don't have that luxury because you have to get the
You
records
have
to
to
the
get them written
art.
up right away. Yep.
Yeah, you don't have that luxury. So, and then, hearing from veterinarians that are in my social media circle and on all these Facebook groups that I'm in. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm 3 months behind, or I'm 6 months behind. And some people are like a year behind. I'm like, oh my
You can never
gosh, oh
catch
my
up.
gosh,
Yeah, I don't
oh
know
my
how
God.
that
I can't
happens.
even remember an hour later,
I know.
So,
If it didn't happen 5 minutes ago, I've forgotten, right?
so that's, I made Shepherd so that you can get those records done in 5 minutes. You know, you have 5 minutes after an appointment or during the appointment to get that record done. It's all templated. You just have to remember the things that are, abnormal, plug that in. Everything else is it's just a very quick and easy medical
Nice.
record to complete. And, you know, the charges are automatically captured for you. So all you have to do is, administer the things that you did, your vaccines. It goes right into the medical record, captures who did it, when they did it, as a time and date stamped, and it goes right on the invoice. So you don't have to remember to add it to the invoice. It's just automatically added
Yeah.
along with your discharge instructions, you know, are all attached to your whatever you're administering. So if you're doing surgery or vaccines or suture removal or whatever, all of that is put on your discharge instructions automatically. So you don't even have to worry about discharge instructions. So that's, you know,
Well, and if I remember correctly, when I was at the VMX, I did go through Shepard Software with someone. I just happened to wander by and they sucked me into their booth, you know how that
oh,
goes.
yeah,
And so I looked at it and it looked very, for lack of a better word, pretty. It
mm,
looked very simple and
clean
very kind of clear and clean. Um, there wasn't a lot of
tabs and
distraction.
colors. Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought it looked very clean. And so I did go through the demonstration and I thought it was a really interesting way of doing it, even though I probably don't know it all, but it did look very clean. It looked very polished and simple. And so,
Yeah, simple but powerful. I mean, we've got,
yeah.
everything you need, whiteboard, inventory, automated reminders, texting,
So it's
you name
designed
it.
for ER practices and general practices.
Equine,
Okay,
ER, GP,
nice.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
Any
nice.
type of practice can use it,
Yeah.
100%.
So how do you feel about that? Like that sounds like a really proud thing that you started this whole, you know, this whole
Um,
software thing, even though it
I
was
am
hard.
It was very hard. I am very proud of it. We're still in the growing phases. I think, once we get to the point where we have a significant market share, I will feel even better. But, what I'm really most proud about is the practices that started with us as beta practices are all still with us. So when I reached out to, a handful of practices and said, I'm looking for beta practices to test it and tell us where we need to fix this, that, or the other.
Hmm.
Um, you know, you are going to pay us, but but it's going to be a minimal fee, and you're going to have that fee for life. And they're like, okay, we'll do it. And those practices are still with us.
Nice.
We have very, very, very little what we call churn in the software industry. So very, very few people leave us. You know, everyone has people that come and go, but our churn rate is just so very, very minimal. And people are very happy with our service. Not just the software, but our incredible team that I've put together. And that's what I'm most proud about, because in the ER, we had an amazing customer care team. We had an amazing technician team, and team culture is really, really important to me. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just,
let's talk about that. Do you have time to keep going?
oh, of course, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah. Let's
yeah.
talk about that because I have always been really into that. Like, I love leadership. I've always been really jazzed up about leading a team and running a team. And so let's talk something about that. Like, what was that like, and what kind of things do you think are important to that?
Well, I mean, the most important thing when it comes to high quality medicine is when a client um, trusts you. I mean, that's when you're going to get buy-in from the client, and you're going to be able to provide, all the diagnostics and the treatment plan that is best for that patient. So you have to get buy-in from the client, and the client's not going to buy in unless they trust you.
Right.
So that's got to be a team effort. They can't just trust me as the veterinarian. They have to trust the person that they talk to when they first call into the practice. They have to trust the technical team, that they interact with, and they have to trust the doctor. And so for everyone to be on the same page, the team has to buy into that practice culture. And it has to be voluntary. So they have to really believe in what they're doing, and they have to believe why they're there. And really my motto for the emergency practice, and it carried on because that's just who I am, into the software company is, you're here because you are the best of the best. I only hire the best. You're the cream of the crop. And everyone knew what everyone got paid, because everyone got paid the same. You're not here unless you are the best, number one.
Nice.
And everyone got paid the same because I handpicked you. And, I invested in them. I made sure that, their needs were cared for. You needed time off, you got time off. Family came first. They knew that. If we were super busy, I fed them. I made sure that there were always food and snacks and drinks and things they needed to take care of themselves were always available at the practice. And same for clients, food, snacks, drinks were always available for the clients. The team knew that they had the power to defend themselves and to ask a client to leave if that client
Yeah.
was getting aggressive or obnoxious. They had the power to make the right call, whatever that call was, and I would back them up no matter what. I always had my team's
So you
back. I think
empowered them
100%.
to make decisions and
And it
yes, no.
never happened. Never happened. They always went above and beyond to make that client happy. And if they needed to discount something or, give something away or whatever, make exceptions, they had the power to do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we always talked as a team about, what that, what those circumstances were that warranted it. And so again, those circumstances and situations were very, very rare, because the team worked really hard to work through those situations. They hardly ever gave things away, hardly ever gave discounts, because they believed in what they were saying, and they believed
Right.
in
Their work.
their work. Exactly. So if that situation came to that point, they knew that they could do that, and I would back them up 100%. So I think what's most important is having your team's back, and trusting your team, and having those open and honest conversations is number one. I always sent my team to continuing education conferences, full ride. I paid for their travel, I paid for their food, I paid of course, all the CE, and then I paid their salaries when they were there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even the non-credentialed technicians, in the support staff that were doing technical type work, so that they felt like they were part of the team, they felt empowered. And they, when you get in that environment and you're around all of these other veterinary professionals, you just come away from environments like that feeling empowered again, and excited about your career. And
Re-energized. Yeah.
exactly. So invest in your team, invest in your team. And the same thing, when they came over to the software company, I'm like, listen, we're here to provide our customers, our clients with the most superior customer service that they've ever had in any, you know, um, business experience that that they interact with. And they know that. And that's the kind of customer service that they provide. I mean, they go above and beyond for our team. I mean, for our clients. And that's probably the number one compliment we get from our customers, is just, the customer care team, and their experience with them is second to none. And we're
Nice.
really proud of that.
Yeah. You should be proud of that, because that's not an easy thing to do. It's not easy to create a team. It's not easy to keep a team together. It's not easy to foster that trust and empowering those people to do their jobs.
Yeah.
That is something you need to be.
Yeah. And you also, I mean, there's the hard side to that. It's not all, great. The hard side to that is you really have to have a tough policy that if there is a team member that can't be coached up, you got to let them go quick.
Yeah. And
Doesn't
that's a
matter
hard thing
how,
to do.
doesn't matter if they are your most credentialed technician, or, most skilled technician, or whatever. If they are your most toxic employee, or, if I've had to let go of doctors. I had a doctor once that brought her own dog into the practice and then proceeded to abuse it.
Wow. Yeah, that's not good.
And I had to let her go, because
Yeah.
that just
Eh,
can't, you can't have that
Well, if
modeling.
someone would do that with their own dog, what would they do with the client's dog? Yeah.
So, you have to make tough decisions as a leader, to really protect your environment and your culture at all costs, even when the decisions are hard, you know.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people that aren't in the leadership role if they're in that kind of toxic environment? Because I run into that a lot with some of the people that I coach, is they're associate veterinarians, and the practice leadership is a little wishy-washy, and so they have a hard time being in that environment. Do you think there's a way to influence the environment in a positive way without the leadership being super solid?
No, leave.
Yeah,
I
leave and
mean,
go somewhere
honestly,
else.
if more people would just leave and go somewhere else, and then go build that culture, you know, go somewhere else. Because I mean, we're in an environment right now where
Now we are,
you're
yeah.
you're so wanted in so many different places. I mean, you could literally write your own check.
Yeah,
Whatever you want, you've got. And you can go into places that are looking for associates and say, okay, this is what I'd like. I want to build a team, I want to build a culture, and these are my requirements. And you're going to find a place that's going to be like, whatever you want. This is great. You want to do this? Tell me what you need.
yeah. And that's
And
what you should be looking
you
for.
can't, you should be doing that. And if more people start leaving instead of trying to fix a bad situation, we're going to see the energy shift in this industry.
Yeah. Well, I think it already is. I think
Oh,
people like you and a lot of the people that I talk to on the podcast and a lot of the people that I coach, I think that we are changing it. It's like a big ship to turn. So it's going to take time,
100%,
but I think
100%.
I think we're getting there
No, I
slowly.
agree.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it, and I mean, there's so many rippling effects. We're seeing a lot of these corporate entities, God bless them, that aren't managing their practices well because it's just a big machine, are having to close their doors
Yeah.
because they can't keep teams together. And then they're relying on tons of relief vets to run their practices, and then that's not sustainable.
Right.
So, I mean, eventually you exactly things will right themselves and become level again. And I think associates that are in toxic situations, yeah, you got to leave.
Hmm.
And don't be afraid to leave, because the grass is really greener on the other side.
Yeah. There's plenty of
and
places to
probably
find, right?
and you're probably going to make more money somewhere else and work less.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there anything that we didn't talk about that we should have? Anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to put out there?
I mean, I think we pretty much covered it. I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah.
I
You
just
have a really interesting journey. So how many more
yeah.
times are you going to change careers, do you think?
Well, I am currently, I mean, right now I am advising Shepard. I'm no longer the CEO. I'm advising Shepard, and I will continue to advise Shepard forever, as long as they have me. So I'm still pretty involved with Shepard, as much as they need me or want me. And I'm doing relief ER work just to kind of stay busy and keep my, toe in the water.
Yeah.
This one practice that I was doing relief work on and off, they got acquired by Blue Pearl, so they kind of nailed me down. We're like, we need you to be more regular. So, and I really like the practice, so that's why I'm doing work every other week for them. But I'm actually starting a group of de novo practices.
Oh,
So
interesting.
that if that takes off the way I expect it to take off, that'll be kind of my final hurrah. I mean, I'm 50, and we have our 10th grandbaby due in
Oh, wow.
September, and
Nice.
you know, the goal is to build, however many of these practices, and that'll probably be my final.
It sounds like a big project too.
It
Yeah.
is going to be a big project, and there'll be a unique twist to these practices, and so stay tuned. I'll come
Nice.
back on and talk about it once
Yeah, yeah,
we
for
we
sure. I'd love
launch.
to have you. This has been really fun. All
Yeah,
right. So tell me before we wrap up, if someone wants to learn more about Shepard Software or more about you, where can they go? Who can they contact? Is there a website or?
sure. So Shepherd, they just go to Shepherd, spelled like the dog Shepherd, .vet. And then there's a little chat icon in the bottom right hand corner. They just click on that, and they'll speak to a real human from 7 a.m. Eastern time to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
they can learn about the software.
yep. And
Yeah.
they can get a
Okay.
demo anytime they want and a free trial account.
Awesome.
Um, and then they want to speak to me or reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn and or Instagram at Cindy Barnes DVM. Those are the two best
Nice.
places to find me.
Great. Well, this has been super fun. It's been great to meet you. Great to talk to you again. I talked to you a little bit before this podcast, but I didn't hear the whole story. So it's been really fun to learn about your journey, and I really admire your focus and the way that you can pivot. So that's interesting, and I'll want to learn more when you get these practices going. I think that'll be fun to hear about
Well,
your
it's
next
all about
adventure.
defying what, the industry's all about and saying, you know what, we can do better.
Yes.
So watch me go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Well,
great.
thanks for having me,
Thank
Julie.
you
I,
so
I
much. I
enjoyed the
really appreciate.
conversation.
Yeah, it was really fun, Cindy. Thanks for being here. I really enjoyed it. All right, everyone, have a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you again next week. Bye. Bye, Cindy.
Bye-bye.